I'm 20 years old. It's the middle of the night, and I'm at Lake Lavon just outside of Dallas, Texas. I used to go there and listen to music and walk around and just do some thinking, spend a lot of nights like that. But tonight is different. It's one of those rare moments when your life's about to change and you actually know it. You can actually see it coming. In a few weeks, I'm gonna pack my car full of all of my belongings. I'm gonna drive 1,600 miles away from my friends, my family, my hometown. I'm gonna move to Tennessee where I don't know a single soul. I told myself it'd be good to get away and start fresh, but really tonight I'm trying to talk myself out of it. Also, depression is settling into my life for the first time. And I didn't know how to handle it, just felt really unfamiliar, like living with a stranger or something. I just didn't know what to do with this new, empty, hollow sadness in my life. On top of all that, I'm at the climax of this long spiritual crisis. And I had become continually convinced that this whole Jesus, God, Christianity thing is just a part of my family's heritage, and that's it. It's a fairy tale. It's a story people tell themselves to help cope with all the pain they see in the world. Life was just changing, and I knew it. And the change felt heavy and scary, and I felt alone. But then I'm sitting on the hood of my car at one point, and this song starts playing on my radio. One of my favorite songs. It's one of those songs that just kind of builds and builds and builds. And the singer keeps repeating these words. He says, "I need you so much closer. I need you so much closer." And I don't really know how to pray. And so in that moment, these lyrics become my Hail Mary prayer. I need you so much closer. I start trembling, I get choked up. I'm actually talking out loud on the hood of my car, and I'm looking at the sky and I'm going, God, if you're real, show up. And if you're real, speak up, because I'm here and I'm giving you one more shot and I'm about to walk away from you. And so if you're real, give me a reason to stay. God, I don't know where you are, but I need you closer right now. And there on the hood of that car, at this vulnerable moment where my life is changing, at the peak of this spiritual crisis of mine, guess what happened? Nothing. Just silence. So I get back in my car and I drive away from Lake Lavon. And a few weeks later, I drive away from home. I drive away from my friends and family, everything and everyone I'd ever known. And I drive toward Tennessee, and I drive toward depression and anxiety. I drive toward addiction, and I drive into all of that alone. Because I'm driving into another 8 years of my life where I'm absolutely convinced that if there is a God, He does not care about us. So I don't know what that moment has looked like for you, but I know that we've all had that moment, right? You know, maybe some of us are in that moment right now. It's that moment where you throw the Hail Mary, right? You know, God, if there was ever a time for you to speak up, it's right now. It's that moment when you're laying in bed and you're staring at the ceiling, you're going, God, my marriage is on life support, you know, help now. Or it's that moment where you're eating dinner alone again, you know, and you're going, God, are you ever gonna send me someone who's not gonna leave me? God, help now. It's the moment where you and I, we look at Him and we go, God, where are you? And the response is just silence. Whenever that happens, we feel abandoned. The word for it is actually forsaken. We feel like if there is a God, He's forsaken us, right? He's left us out here on our own. Now, 2,000 years ago, Jesus walked around this planet and He taught people and He did miracles, and He also caused a lot of controversy because He claimed to be the Son of God. That got Him arrested eventually, and He's put on trial, and He's rung up on false charges, He's beaten, He's mocked, and then He's nailed to the cross like a common criminal. He's just left there to die. And while Jesus is dying on the cross, there's this moment when He shouts out, the Bible says He shouts out in a loud voice, and He says, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? See, in that moment, Jesus, like the Son of God, just prayed the same prayer that you and I have time and time again. He goes, God, where are you? He goes, please don't abandon me here. Don't desert me here. God, show up, speak up. I need you closer right now. That's Jesus speaking. He says, God, my God, why have you forsaken me? And guess what happens when he prays that prayer? Nothing. It's just silence. The reason that Jesus feels forsaken in this moment right now is because he is. Here's what I mean by that. So Jesus claims to have put our sins to death on the cross, right? Which means all of our guilt and our shame, all of our, baggage from a lifetime of failures and mistakes, Jesus put that on himself. Jesus is carrying the sin, including yours, including mine, of the entire world while he's dying on the cross. The result of that sin, though, and the reason that you and I need freed from it in the first place is because it separates us from a relationship with God. It makes that impossible. Which means if Jesus on the cross really is carrying the sin of all humanity, that means he can't be in relationship with God right now. It's impossible. It means that Jesus is actually forsaken by God in this moment. For the first time since the creation of existence, Jesus is separated from his Father. He's forsaken. There's nothing more for him to do right now. He's forsaken. No more teaching, no more miracles, no more friendships. In this moment, there's nothing left for Jesus to do but die. And so he does. See, part of the hope of Jesus' story is that God didn't come live with us in the flesh just to teach us or just to show us what love and grace and forgiveness and friendship looks like. He also came here to suffer for us and to suffer with us and to suffer with us in the same ways we suffer. And in this moment, we see that Jesus even suffered forsakenness. He prayed the same prayer you have. God, where are you? He got the same answer you got. Silence. At the same time, when it comes to God, silence is never forever and death is never eternal. And so Jesus is sealed away, dead in a tomb. And then after 3 days, God keeps his promise. And he resurrected Jesus and death becomes life. And then because of that, still to this day, if you put even just a little bit of faith in Jesus and what he's done for you, it means that nothing has to stay dead in your life either. And it means that no pain ever has to go wasted. And I know that because I've seen it in my life. So that story I told about being 20 years old and feeling forsaken on the hood of my car, I want to fast forward 10 years from that moment to a concert that Allie, my wife, and I went to here at Red Rocks. You got to understand that a lot had happened in that 10 years. I mean, I met Allie and I married her. I got my degree. We moved to Colorado. Now, the first 8 of those 10 years were filled with more silence from God and more forsakenness. But through Allie and friendships and this church that I was reluctantly going to called Flatirons, I finally reached the point where I sat in a coffee shop one day and I prayed again, like in earnest, for the first time in a really long time. And I just told God, I'm like, God, I don't know what you're doing. I don't have you figured out. I don't know why you choose to be so silent with me, but I'm just done fighting you. I believe in you. And if you can fix me, like if you can heal this mess I made out of my life, you can have the whole entire thing. I'll go wherever you want. I'll do whatever you want. Just please fix me. And then starting with that prayer, slowly but surely, my life started to change. Over the next 2 years, I began learning ways to cope with my depression. And then Allie and I had our first kid and we had another on the way. I started working at Flatirons with high school and middle school students. And I realized eventually that I want to spend the rest of my life telling people about Jesus. Like a lot had changed in that 10 years. But now Allie and I are at this concert at Red Rocks, and it's this band called Death Cab for Cutie. And we're having a great time. They play their show, they come back out for an encore, and then they end on this song called Transatlanticism. And it was the same song from that night, the one that just builds and builds and builds, where he sings over and over, I need you so much closer, I need you so much closer. And as I'm watching them perform, I have, and I don't say this lightly, I have like a holy moment. I mean, until this moment, I hadn't once thought back on that time 10 years ago at Lake Lavon, but now suddenly at this concert, watching this band play that song, it was like I was transported. And I saw myself on the hood of that car, like in vivid detail. It felt like I was there again, just listening to that song, praying to God and getting nothing but silence back. And while I'm having this memory, I didn't hear an audible voice or anything, but the message was crystal clear. It was like God was showing me 10 years later that he had never forsaken me and he was with me the whole time. It's like God was telling me, Ben, if I spoke up that night in the way you wanted me to, you never would have moved to Tennessee. If you didn't do that, you never would have met Allie. If you never married Allie, you wouldn't have these beautiful kids. You wouldn't have moved to Colorado. If you didn't move to Colorado, you wouldn't have found Flatirons, and you wouldn't have found me again. I saw it so clearly. I saw that God was sitting on the hood of that car with me that night. It's just that he chose to be silent. And it sucked, and it hurt. I think it hurt him too. It's just, I think he knew that I wasn't going to make it to the place I am today without that silence. It was like God was showing me, I never abandoned you. I was always going to bring you back to life. You just still had some stuff that needed to die first. And then just like that, boom. I'm back at this concert. The song is over. People are leaving. And Allie's shaking my arm going, Ben, what's wrong? Because I'm a wreck. If you're in that phase of life right now, where you're feeling abandoned and forsaken, where you're praying, God, where are you? And you're getting nothing but silence back, if that's you, I'm honestly not sure what to say. Because I don't think that there's 5 easy steps to feeling unforsaken. But I can tell you that I know that feeling and it feels awful. More importantly, I can tell you that Jesus knows that feeling and he knows it feels awful. He knows what it's like to be forsaken and abandoned. And he knows what it's like to shout, God, where are you? And get nothing but silence back. And I can also tell you that with Jesus, there's actually some hope you can hang on to, because with Jesus, whether it takes 3 days or 8 years or 80 years, no pain is ever wasted. And with Jesus, suffering is never pointless. It always leads towards strength. And with Jesus, death is never the end and silence is never eternal. And with Jesus, the sun will eventually rise on those dark nights of the soul. And so for those of us still living in those dark nights, can you muster the strength to just keep talking to him? To keep telling him, I need you so much closer? And can you find the spiritual grit inside of yourself to pray this ancient prayer with me right now? How long, O Lord? And will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? And how long must I wrestle with my thoughts and every day have sorrow in my heart? But even when I feel forsaken, I trust in your unfailing love, and my heart rejoices in your salvation, and I will sing to the Lord, for he has been good to me.